look out. Here come former SportsCenter anchor Bob Stevens, esteemed basketball coach Rich Basirico, and Hall of Fame sports writer Curry Kirkpatrick. And someone's going under the bus.
I hope there's enough room under the bus for everybody that needs to go under there today. Bob, along with Curry and Rich, we got to start with, I guess, the thing that's happening right before our eyes that we have an expert on among our panel today. Wimbledon, or as Mudcat Grant, the famous pitcher back in the 60s, when he was a broadcaster, used to call Wimbledon, is happening. He would give the scores, Curry. I did not hear this firsthand, but my sources are impeccable on this, that they would hand him a card to read the scores, and he would say, "Oh, over at Wimbledon today," and but he couldn't be reading any crazier scores than we're seeing, huh? I mean,
over at
what's happening?
Well, over at Wimbledon a couple hours ago, we're doing this Monday night, and
Right.
Wimbledon was rolling along on the men's side. Everybody advancing, Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner and Djokovic, and all of a sudden, late this afternoon, Sinner was just being routed by a veteran guy from Bulgaria who's been around for forever. Gregor Dimitrov. Early in his career, I remember when he came along, he had such a great game. He was a very stylish game. They called him Baby Federer. He was supposed to be the next Federer. That never happened. But he has been a semifinalist at Wimbledon, and he's a routine run-of-the-mill guy, but he was taking out Sinner. And I was listening to this thing on the beach, and Sinner seemed to be having problem with his elbow the whole first two sets, because he fell in the first game. So he's being taken out in two sets, and he's down, and they close the roof, which changes the match totally. And they come out, and Dimitrov is serving, and all of a sudden he serves the game to get to 2-all in the third set, and he grabs his pec, and his pec is gone. He's strained it on his serve, and he goes to the ground, and I was listening to this on the radio. It sounded to me like Sinner had gone down because he'd been the one that was a problem the whole match. But of course, it was the reverse, and Dimitrov went down, and obviously he was unable to continue. And so Sinner wins the match, and he advances, which is just a stunning. And he said, I don't even want to take this. I don't count this as a win. He was totally. I mean, the two are good friends. Yeah. They embraced at the end, and Sinner gave this great speech to the crowd, how upset he was, and everybody was upset in tennis. But to me, it sounds like Sinner's elbow is a real problem. Yeah. He said he was speaking in Italian late in the day after the match and telling the Italian journalist that he was very worried about it. He was going to get it looked at. His next opponent would be the American Ben Shelton, who's been a phenom in this tournament, who serves everybody off the court. And Shelton looked primed to play Sinner, but I wouldn't be surprised if Sinner is just a walkover for Shelton.
So and we got two Americans among the final 8. That's pretty remarkable. Can one of them win it?
Well, Taylor Swift is Taylor Swift. I keep calling him Taylor Fritz. His name is Fritz, not Swift. Everybody. Of course, he's advanced. He's a seed. He's a 4th or 5th seed, and it's no surprise. He's been here before. Shelton, the big left-hander, of course, is a University of Florida Gator graduate, and his girlfriend is Dennis Rodman's daughter, the soccer player, Trinity Rodman. She's been at all the matches, and his sister. It made a lot of publicity when she got a weekend off to see him play a few days ago. She works in New York for who is it? One of the big mortgage firms, and she got time off, but she wasn't going to be able to stay there. But Shelton made a plea on center court after his match that her her bosses please let her off to stay at Wimbledon. Sure enough, they did. So she's
All right.
still there.
That's great. Curry, I have a question for you. And all the tennis that you cover all over all the years, that injury that happened today, do you see that? Did you see that happen often?
I've never
It
seen
was
a pec like that. I've seen mostly legs and ankles and feet go out
right,
on you, but I've never seen a pectoral to the
right.
shoulder go out like that on just one serve. He
Yeah,
looked like he was serving better than he had the whole tournament,
yeah.
all during this match. And yeah, it was quite surprising to me. But then again,
Yeah.
look at this guy's history.
I know.
Remarkably, he's defaulted in the last 5
Fine.
Grand Slam tournaments. I mean, that's just unbelievable. Different
That's
parts of
crazy.
his body break down. And 10 Grand Slams in all, he's defaulted from in the
And
last
the
5 in a
last
row.
5, right? The last 5
Last
Grand
5 in a
Slam.
row. That's got to be a
That's
record.
crazy.
Yeah.
That has to be a record.
Does
Yeah.
Djokovic sneak through the back door and maybe steal this thing?
Well, he was in trouble today also in the fourth. He lost the first set, and then in the fourth, he was down 4-1 in the fourth to De Minaur, this terrific young Australian player. And then De Minaur just collapsed. I don't know what happened to him. I joke about he just got the pressure the moment he sees who he's playing on the other side of the net. Because Djokovic just kind of played routinely. He didn't hit any great shots. He just kind of came from behind in the fourth, and then he won the fourth and didn't even have to go to the fifth. But you're right. He's sneaking around the back. Nobody's talking about him because everybody's looking at Alcaraz and Sinner and the 2 Americans, and here he comes.
Amazing stuff.
It's remarkable today. It was neat today because Roger Federer was in the Royal Box today watching the matches, and he watched. Of course, he watched Djokovic play, and afterward, Djokovic called him out a little bit up in the. He praised him up in the box, and he said he'd played in front of him before, but he'd never won before. So he thanked Roger for changing the one loss record. Yeah.
On the women's side, of the final 8, there were only 2 of the top 8 seeds. Does Sabalenka walk through this now? She's been the top seed. Does she kind of just walk right through and take it?
Well, she's been crushing people. She's the strongest girl. She's the best girl, I think. But she's still got a lot of the seeds went out early. The top seeds, Goff and Pegula and the Chinese girl Cheng. She's still got to deal with Swiatek. Swiatek's hanging around, and there's a young 18-year-old Russian girl who has roared through the draw. Her name is Mira Andreeva. She won again today. She beat the last American girl, Navarro. She crushed her.
Right.
Andreeva has been talked about since coming on the tour 2 years ago at 16. And she won 2 tournaments early in the year in Dubai and Indian Wells. She beat Sabalenka last year in a big tournament. And so watch out for her. She's gotten in 2 years, she's gotten so much taller and bigger. Of course, that's what you do between 16 and 18. But she's a real threat, I think. Mira Andreeva.
All right. Interesting stuff. Hey, let's take a break a little earlier than we normally do. We're going to come back. We still got a lot of baseball to talk about. We got NBA to talk about. We got Rich's idol in sports, Joey Chestnut, to talk about. Yeah. We got all of that still to come. Let's take a quick break now that we've broken down tennis, and come back and talk some other sports and throw some other people. I'm not sure we threw anybody from Wimbledon under the bus. Oh, but that's coming. Stay with us. Brought to you by Hudson's on the Docks at hudsonsonthedocks.com. Welcome back to Under the Bus, brought to you by Hudson's, a great seafood restaurant on Hilton Head Island in South Carolina. hudsonsonthedocks.com. You can check out the menu. The folks who are at Hudson's as we tape this are getting a fabulous sunset. It is a gorgeous one. And folks, you can just sit right outside and watch it happen over the creek. And it's fabulous. All right, let's talk a little baseball. All-Star game coming up next week. The All-Stars have been picked. Any crazy snubs? Rich, your boy Soto did not make the All-Star team.
Yeah, I'm not sad. I'm not sad about that, but I think he should have made it. I mean, he was player of the month in the month of June, right? He player of the month in the baseball, and he doesn't make the All-Star team. I mean, Mookie Betts didn't make it. Who's not having a great year, but it's still Mookie Betts. The one that I think stands out for me is George Springer from Toronto. What's he batting? He's batting 281. He has 16 home runs, I think 54 RBIs. I think he should definitely be on the team, and they're missing a couple pitchers too.
And he just finished killing Toronto, the Yankees and the Guardians. So we have both seen him. Yeah.
Didn't the Japanese guy from the Cubs,
yes,
Suzuki, doesn't he lead the majors in runs batted in or something?
Runs batted in.
He didn't
runs
make
batted used to be the big stat, didn't it? Used to be. I mean, I always thought that's what I measured. You know, the big power guys by. Well,
is an all-star game without Mookie Betts and Juan Soto really an all-star game? I mean, I remember, I'm from St. Louis, and I was a big Stan Musial fan. And Stan played in like 23 all-star games. He played every year. But I was always worried if he didn't have a good first half, that he wouldn't be chosen. But he was always chosen because he was Stan Musial. That's because you can't leave Stan Musial off an all-star team.
That's right.
And he also never had a bad first half.
Well, I thought he did, but of course they changed the rule and they made it so that every team had to have a representative, right? Is that a stupid rule or what? I mean, the Miami Marlins, they don't need.
That's a good rule. Every team needs. Yes, every team should have one.
Terrible rule.
If you're a fan of a team that's not very good, you got to have somebody to root for in the All-Star game.
Well, those people, Bob, the Colorado Rocky fans aren't watching baseball this season. They're so bad. So why would they watch the All-Star game?
They have a catcher who's actually pretty good. Who is their representative in the All-Star
team. And he made it. Let me ask you this: Aren't there always dropouts from the All-Star game? Injury, they take out something. Yeah. So it's my guess.
Juan Soto is eventually going to get his shot.
It's my guess that Juan Soto and Mookie are going to play
and Suzuki. Suzuki.
Yeah. They should. Well, how about Valdez, the pitcher from Houston? I think he's 10-2. How does he not get in there? The most victories is 11. He's got 10. His ERA's under 3. How does he not be one of the pitchers?
He'll get if he can pitch. There'll be enough guys who drop out who it's not their day to pitch, so they can't. But last year they had there's 65 guys that get named All-Stars anyway, and there were 75 who ended up getting counted as All-Stars because of the guys getting hurt or not wanting to play or this or that. So I think those guys will get going. The weird part of the rules is, Curry, and I don't think it's a team, but there are 32 players on each team, first of all, which is nuts. I mean, now that's where you got a problem. 9 starters are picked by the fans, 9 reserves, and then 5 of the pitchers 8 of the pitchers are picked by the players. And then the commissioner gets to fill in the blanks. He gets to pick 6 players to make sure he gets them from every team. So there's so many rules already that I don't know. I think every team should get one.
Is there a fan vote? Is that the original vote for the 9 starters?
That's the original vote for the 9 starters. Yeah,
for the 9 starters.
The players pick. The players, you like Soto. His personality. Some of these guys I'm not voting for him. That's how they go. They don't look at his stats. I'm not voting for him. I don't like the guy.
Hey, the one guy who might have gotten screwed through all of this is Rafael Devers, who might have been the DH in the American League, but he gets traded to the National League. So his numbers are, nobody in the National League seen him yet. So
Right.
he's interesting that he probably will not make the All-Star team.
And he's not going to get voted on by the players either because nobody likes him.
No.
Hey, the Washington Nationals, who I think this is the first time they have ever been mentioned on Under the Bus. We should throw Nationals ownership under the bus. They fire the president of the team, Mike Rizzo. They fire the manager, Davey Martinez, who probably should have been fired, but they fire him the week before the draft, and they have the number 1 pick.
Well, but Martinez, did you hear what Martinez came out maybe 2 weeks ago, and they're doing so poorly? He says the offense, our offense struggles is never on the coaching.
We should have.
Why are you a coach? Why do you have a batting coach, hitting coach for then if it's never on the coaches?
We should have put him under the bus that week because he threw his players under the bus. And any time nowadays when a guy throws the players under the bus, he's probably soon to be followed. A lot of weird results. Curry, you were talking about this before we came on. This has been a weird season. This past weekend,
some of these scores. I mean, the Dodgers got beat 18 to 1. What are you? The Dodgers got beat at home 18 to 1. What are you kidding me? This, and my team, the Cardinals, they go into Chicago, they win a big game, but in between the game, the Cubs hit 8 home runs off them, and then last night the Cubs beat them 11 to nothing. I think stuff like this, and your Yankees have some weird results constantly. Yeah.
Well, the pitching.
I don't know what does that mean. Does that mean teams aren't trying half the time? What does that mean?
I don't know. Yeah, a darn good question. Pittsburgh shuts out the Cardinals 3 straight times. Throws 3 shutouts, and then Pittsburgh goes to Seattle and gets shut out 3 straight times.
Right.
Yeah, what is going on? There have been as many 1-0 games this year as there have ever been. They're trying to chase the record from 1968 when they ended up having to lower the mound because that was the year of the pitcher. But 1-0 games are all over the place. I watched one yesterday. The Guardians are playing the Tigers. They are beating. Well, Skubal didn't give up the run, but the Guardians are leading 1-0 in the bottom of the 9th with 2 out. Clase on the mound but the bases there's a runner at third. And Clase throws a pitch that's low, and the catcher doesn't catch it. I mean, it's a low pitch. It's in the dirt. Catcher should catch it. Semi-wild pitch. It gets 20 feet away. Guy scores from third, 1-1.
Wow.
Then you go into extra innings, and the Tigers score 6 runs and win. I mean, it's
happened all over. Tampa Bay the other night had bases loaded, and they were up by 1 run, and they hit a batter. So that was the tying run. I mean, this is Major League Baseball. You hit a batter to tying run.
So we're at the midpoint of the season.
Yes.
And I read a story just yesterday, I think. It said something like 27, 28 teams are still in contention for the playoffs. There's only 1 or 2 teams that are out. And it say it's almost impossible to fall out of contention this season.
I think it is, and I think the Guardians just have. Now you're getting teams that are 6 or 7 out of the wild card, and that's a long hill to climb. Yeah. If you're under 500 now, you're not very good. I mean, there's too many really bad teams. There's enough really bad teams that you should have played the White Sox or Baltimore or Colorado so that you're closer to 500. There are some really,
and still the team that got beat 18 to 1 is still the favorite to get to the World Series.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd like to ask you guys, what does the Astros sweep of the Dodgers at Dodger Stadium? What does that say? Who does that say more about, the Astros or the Dodgers?
The Astros. I mean, they're pretty good.
They're better than a lot of people thought they would be.
Yeah.
How about
losing guys?
Detroit has the best record in baseball.
Guys, and they're still good. They keep losing guys, and they're still good. The Astros. They lost Tucker this year, Bregman, and look, they're still up there. Yeah. And they're going to be there at the end. And if they
trash
get some
cans, baby.
Yeah.
Well, Houston's 7 games up in the win column, and
they're still booing Altuve. They're still booing, especially in
He
Dodger
gets booed
Stadium.
everywhere.
They
Yeah.
kill him. They kill him.
Shohei's starting to pitch. That could be
Yeah.
the salvation of the Dodgers, huh? If
Yeah.
Shohei comes back as a
they're only
pitcher.
letting him pitch 2 innings, just
It's
2 innings.
something
I guess.
and he struck out the side in the second inning the other night.
Yeah, he throws at 102. He's
a stud.
He's still getting it done.
Stud.
Hey, while we're here, let's talk some NBA. I missed last week. I know you guys broke down the draft and really got into the nitty-gritty of all of that. Have we talked since the Knicks? I was not in when the Knicks finally hired a coach. Sorry, Rich, it wasn't you, but you would have gotten the next call if Mike Brown hadn't have taken the job. Did you guys talk about that last week?
You think Mike Brown is an improvement? Here's the red flag for me from Mike Brown.
There goes Rich and Mike Brown. Okay, go ahead.
Well, he's been fired 4 times.
Yeah,
is that
I know.
Not a red flag? Is that not a red flag?
I'd like to ask you this, Rich. When he was hired this week, everybody had all these great things to say about Mike Brown, like he was the greatest hire of all time. God, what was he, about 15th on the list? After they tried to get anybody else that could come, and they get him, and now he's the greatest hire of all time.
Well, you know why he got the job? He's been interviewed 4 different teams. He knows all the questions now, so he knows how to answer all the questions. He's been there with 4 different teams.
He's also, Curry, you mentioned that he's been fired 4 times, but now he's been hired 5 times.
Right.
I mean, the guy, I want to meet him and find out how he interviews so that I can get my next job. Yeah, because the guy's obviously gives a good interview, huh?
For sure.
I don't know why I'm going off the air. I didn't realize he goes back all the way. He coached Kobe Bryant, for God's sakes. I mean, this guy's been coaching a long time.
He's been around. Well, his experience paid off. The other coach they were looking at, the guy from Memphis, is a young coach. He hasn't been through that many interviews. And I'm telling you, that experience of being there.
He knows the answer.
He knows the answer to what to say. Well, I don't think he's a better hire than Tibbs. I mean, they should have kept Tibbs. They didn't get, all the guys they wanted to get, Jason Kidd and some of those other guys, they all got turned down. No one will allow them to interview any of those guys.
We are now into free agency and into trading. Kevin Durant was involved in a 7-team trade yesterday. I can't keep up with it. I don't know who else ended up where.
I tried to figure it out. There's no way. But I want to ask you guys. We did not get into free agency, Bob, since
let's talk about it.
We've all been together. And Houston gets Kevin Durant. Milwaukee, I don't know what they're doing. They get Turner from Indianapolis. Why does Indianapolis not give Turner the money?
Yeah.
They said they were going to honor the luxury tax during the playoffs, and apparently they're one of the cheaper teams in the league. And Turner goes to Milwaukee instead of Indianapolis keeping him. Now Indianapolis just signed the guy Huff from Memphis, the 7th center. Used to be a Virginia player, UVA guy. And I didn't realize he has terrific statistics, but so maybe he'll fill in for Turner. He'll be the replacement they need. But what is Milwaukee doing? I mean, they get rid of Dillard, they get rid of Lillard, so they can pay Turner, right?
I guess.
Yeah. And now they're waiting. They're still waiting for Giannis to see if he's going to come back. I don't get it.
Well, Giannis wants to get traded, but he's waiting to see what kind of roster they're going to fill. And they're trying to bring all these guys in to prove to him, hey, we want to win now. We want to win now.
They're not going to be any good. They're not going to be a contender. I think he's going to leave. I think he's leaving.
I hope so. Hope he goes to the Knicks.
Yeah. He's going to make somebody a whole lot better if he wants to. I also today, Indiana went ahead and announced that Tyrese Halliburton will miss the entire season. So I'm curious why they would sign anybody and not try to tank and get a really good draft pick to bring all of that gang back together again.
Well, I think because they played so well without Halliburton. I think they figure they can get through the season and be a contender without him. and then he might
Maybe.
come back at the end of, they say he's out, but these guys miraculously always come back for the playoff time.
I got an NBA question for you guys coming out of the draft. This is something I read, written by a good friend of mine that we worked together at ESPN, David Aldridge, who wrote a great kind of interesting think piece on the eve of the draft, or maybe it was post-draft. What if the NBA draft did it the other way around? Every team has whatever financial situation they're in, and the players get to pick where they want to go in order. Let
what do you mean? Bob? What do you mean in order? Everybody would pick the Lakers,
except the Lakers can't afford them. Except the Lakers can only afford, what they can afford with the salary caps. So let the number one player pick where he wants to go to fit. He's got to take whatever contract will still fit. And then the second best player, all these guys are ranked anyway. And the second best player can say, okay, well, then I want to go there. Do you
think any of these players would pick some low-level teams?
They get paid more because those low-level teams probably have much more money to give them.
Well, the one thing they could
throwing that out there.
The one thing they could do is once the team is picked, they're off the list. They can't, so guys can't pick, let's say, the Lakers 3 times. So if the Lakers would pick first, they're off the list and go down.
But the Lakers aren't going to get picked. I mean, the Lakers have a finite amount of money. They've already promised a whole bunch of it to a whole lot of people. So they got this much space. All right. Do you, Connor Flagg, want to play for them and fit in that much space? Do you want to go to Dallas where there's this much space? You want to go to Sacramento where there's a ton of space? It was just an interesting thought process to see what's really important to the guys, and let the players pick. And then they can't gripe, at least, that, I didn't get picked by such and such I got picked by a bad team. They're the ones doing the picking.
How about back in the days in the 50s where you went to college, that team in your territory got you, like the Celtics got Cousy because he played at Holy Cross.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah.
That's when Charlotte needed a team, right, Curry? They could have had all the Carolina and Duke guys.
Charlotte could have had Flagg this year.
They could have been good. They could have been a contender.
Of course, instead they got Flagg's running buddy instead. So
there you go. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk. We got to talk about Joey Chestnut, and we got a lot of other stuff. Some extra people to throw under the bus. When we come back, Under the Bus, brought to you by Hudson's on the Docks. Welcome back to Under the Bus. Bob Stevens along with Curry Kirkpatrick and Rich Basirico. We don't talk a lot of soccer. We're going to have to next year when the World Cup starts. The U.S. Lost the Gold Cup to Mexico, and yet some people are claiming that's not a bad thing because we only lost 2-1 and we didn't have all of our best players.
We are beaten. Yeah, I'm going to throw some people on the bus, starting with the TV production. Right. Alexei Lalas rides a horse onto the set in the pregame with a 10-gallon hat, and he rides a horse, which is a total copy of what Charles Barkley did a couple of years ago when Houston was in the playoff. It total copy.
And Charles Barkley, and Alexei Lalas is no Charles Barkley.
Right. But Lalas, have you seen? There's a fan that comes to the games dressed like Lalas when Lalas used to play, with his long red hair and his headband, and he's wearing the American flag. And this guy has been to all the games, and they always shoot him. And he drinks beer, and he jumps up and down and drinks beer at the same time. They absolutely shoot him in the stands. So he came onto this. They found out who he was and brought him onto the set in the pregame Sunday, which was hysterical. And they called him Alexei Flawless. It was actually very funny. But our star who had scored 2 goals in the semifinals, Diego Luna, he totally disappeared in the final. He was nowhere to be found. He was on defense the whole time. He's an inside player. He's a striker. He's a goal scorer, and he was playing in defense the whole game. I don't know what that was all about. And in the last, of course, they were down 2-1 at the end of the game, and they took him out in extra minutes. This is who Lelis had proclaimed him to be, the biggest star in American soccer. Well, that's a joke. We know Pulisic is that, who didn't even come. But I don't know. You could take it like Bob said. It's our B team playing, and 5 or 6 of our good players are obviously going to be playing in the World Cup next year. And yet we got to Mexico, but Mexico is basically, of the 32 teams that are going to be in the World Cup next year, Mexico's maybe in the middle, and 16 and 20.
Right.
They're not one of the greater teams either. And in Mexico, the final, they outplayed it. So the score could have been a lot more than 2-1, although there was a real controversial handball on Mexico.
Terrible call.
Yeah. A guy put his hand right on the ball while it was on the grass. I don't know how that couldn't have been called.
Speaking
it would have been a penalty kick for us.
Speaking of terrible calls, we can throw some more baseball umpires under the bus for throwing guys out of games quickly, for arguing balls and strikes. I also read something that this is a great idea, maybe, with the review, with the availability now of replay and review.
Yeah.
If a player argues a called strike and gets thrown out of the game, then it's automatically reviewable. If the player was right, the player gets to stay and the umpire gets thrown out of the game.
I would love that. Did you see Soto when Soto got thrown out, or the manager got thrown out with the Mets and the Yankees? Did you see those 2 pitches? How outside off the plate they were? It was terrible. It was almost like you're gonna complain to me. I'm gonna get you. You're gonna strike out regardless of where that pitch is. It was terrible. They're calling for that guy to be fired. There are people out in New York saying he should be fired. It was
the
so
umpire.
bad.
Well, he will be. I want to get back to soccer.
But
I want to get back to soccer, and I know Rich agrees with me on this. And that the timing of the soccer, the clock. There is no clock that anybody can see. I don't understand why soccer is the only game ever played where nobody knows what the time is.
I agree.
The audience, the crowd has no idea in the waning minutes, how many seconds. Why did this happen? Why did this start?
I have no idea. I don't know.
They can put a big clock just like football does.
Right, sure.
And the time goes out, the time goes out. And
if you still want the referee to run it, the referee could run that clock.
Make it, this stupid extra time they always have. I know our producer, Justin Jarrett, loves extra time. But I don't know why extra time, Okay, so they're going to have extra time. So in the final the other night, they had 7 minutes of extra time. Well, the announcer said they had 5 minutes, but the thing on the scoreboard on the screen kept saying 7. It never went down. As the extra time ran out, it never went down. So us at home never knew how much time was left either. I mean,
Curry, I agree 100% with you. Even when I used to keep the clock for our high school soccer team, and we were told when it got down to 2 minutes, stop the clock. Because you didn't want the stop the clock. They didn't want the fans to sit there and start screaming like, "Hey, the game's over! The game's over!" So at 2 minutes, you had to stop the clock, and who knows how many minutes it's going to add. So an official could sit there and go, "Man, I'm going to put in 3 or 4 minutes for this team. I like this team a lot better than I like the other team. I'll let them play 4 or 5 more minutes." But
it's
Curry,
so stupid.
It's the only
it.
Sport where no one knows how much time. How would you like to coach that way when you have no idea how much time is left?
I've never understood this at all. I've never understood it. And it makes you angry. First of all, it makes you angry if you watch it. The more I watch it, the more pissed off I am. They don't have a clock.
Can't imagine any of the players or the coaches for any team would like that rule. Rich, one great, well-timed sport that we can talk about is hot dog eating.
Speaking of a clock,
Joey
10
Chestnut,
minutes. 10
10
minute
minutes,
clock.
right? No extra time there.
That's right.
None of
No
these
overtime.
officials' rulings.
No
Yeah.
overtime.
10 minutes.
That's right.
Eat
10 minutes.
70
Even when the
hot
hot dogs come, even when the hot dogs coming out of your mouth, the time is
There,
over. 10 minutes. Boom.
there he is.
How does he
There he
do
is,
that?
our hero.
How does he do it? 70 hot dogs in 10 minutes? Hey,
Well,
they
I
say
was,
that every hot dog you eat, it takes 35 seconds off your life. How does Joey Chestnut still living here? How is he still living? How many hot dogs this guy
Rich,
eats?
I was disappointed. I'm throwing Joey under the bus. He had 76, the record 4 years ago. I mean, he's coming back. I think he should have gotten the record this time. He slowed down. He said he was sorry. He could have eaten a couple more. He said he's coming back next year. But I love the commentary, led by our friend Jeremy Schaap, who I work
Yeah.
with at ESPN.
Yeah.
But when Joey was banned last year.
Right.
And 4th of July is not 4th of July without Joey Chestnut and Nathan. So
Right.
last year there was no 4th of July. But he was banned last year. So this was his return. And the announcer, one of the commentators said this was as big a return as Lindbergh returning to St. Louis, and then he changed it and he said that no, it's bigger than Sammy Hagar returning to Van Halen. And of course, Jeremy Schaap called Joey Chestnut the Michelangelo of mastication, and he kept saying that. I texted him later afterward. I said, Jeremy, once is enough. He said it about 17 times.
Yeah, you don't want to waste that line more than once, for sure.
Yeah.
You know what?
So you're throwing Joey. Go ahead.
I always worry about after it's over and they interview him, I always think he's going to get sick. I'm thinking your stomach's got to be so upset with all that food in there. I'm thinking, what happens if this guy really gets sick on air? I'm thinking it's going to happen sooner or later.
Well, he has great lines before the match, before the exercise. He said they asked him, and he said, "If I find my rhythm, I'm going to blow away the competition." he said, and I said, "Wait a minute, blow away? No, you don't blow away a hot dog. You ain't got this.
The other one.
You chomp away, or you swallow
Inhale.
away.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't. That would be." But one thing about it, I was really disappointed this year. My favorite competitor for Joey is a huge Jersey guy, 300-pound black guy. He calls himself Badlands. His name is Eric Booker, and he calls himself Badlands Booker, and he's always in the contest. And this year, he didn't participate. And I texted Jeremy. I said, "Where was Badlands Booker?" And he said, "Well, he chose to compete in the Chug-a-Lug contest, which is an exhibition earlier than the hot dog eating. And he's the champion of the Chuggers."
Wow.
And I was, but he said, Jeremy said, but it was canceled this year. He said, due to a vomit situation. So there was your getting sick, Rich. Somebody got
man. We got to steer the conversation a different way. Rich, you got anybody else to throw under the bus?
Yes, I do. Guess who you think I'm going to say? Aaron Boone for the New York Yankees.
Oh.
They get swept by Toronto, and he tells his team, "We have the best team in baseball." How do you say you have the best team in baseball? You just come off losing 0-7, and you're the best team in baseball. I mean, his biggest thing is he's too nice of a guy, and he's not hard on the players at all. And he needs to, when they go 0-7, come on, let's take some of the guys and maybe don't do it publicly. Maybe he is doing it in the locker room behind the scenes, but he's not. I don't think he's that type of guy. He's always moving the lineup around. Goldschmidt had been in a kind of bad slump. I don't know. He was 0-7. He gets 2 hits in the game. Next game, he's on the bench. Like, what are you talking about? Rhythm? He's got his rhythm back. Let him play.
Yeah.
So he's under the bus for me.
All right. I want to throw Joe Burrow under the bus. The Cincinnati Bengals quarterback is going to be the highlight of a new Netflix show. I guess it's this season of the show is called Quarterback. And Joe Burrow, who ought to have something better to do than let cameras into his life and take over his life for the next few months.
Yeah.
The Bengals are close.
Right.
They're almost there. And the last thing they need is that kind of distraction. But no, Joe Burrow will do his hair every day and dress up every day.
How long is this going to be for?
Well, Netflix, they're going to do, I think it goes through the season.
Wow.
Well, has the NFL announced who the summertime?
I think it's the Bears for some reason.
Because they tried to get Belichick at North Carolina, and the girlfriend nixed that apparently.
Yeah.
So
we at least get her mentioned again in another show, which is always good. I think it's the Bears.
The Bears. Really?
I think it's the Bears. I'm not quite sure, but with the new coach and with all the stuff they got going on, the Bears are kind of a big talk right now, and I think it's the Bears. I could be wrong.
I got an extracurricular under the bus, for a final.
Right.
I know. I'm throwing under wrong Crystal Neal, better known as Red Panda. The Red Panda who does the unicycle and does the dishes on her unicycle.
Right.
Red Panda fell off the unicycle the other day. Yikes. I mean, fell off it. She had to be wheeled off in a wheelchair. She's out for several months. Wow. I'm gonna say, I mean, how can you fall off? I mean, that looks so easy after she's done it for several years. It seems to me. Now, more than that, though, she fell off at halftime of the WNBA Commissioner's Cup Championship game. What is she doing at such an insignificant? What is Red Panda doing at such an insignificant event? I mean, that is. Come on,
it's all about
Panda.
money. It's all about money, Curry.
Come on, Panda. The hex was on. That's why you fell. You should not appear at the Commissioner's Cup. That thing is so ridiculous. Here's how ridiculous it is. They pay more money to the winners of the team, which turned out to be Indiana without Caitlin Clark.
Right.
She didn't play in it, but her team won. They pay more for that than winning the championship at the end of the year. Can you believe that?
Yeah, that's crazy.
And Caitlin Clark even spoke up. She called the whole thing out. She called out the commissioner, who is Kathy Engelbert, and she said, "Commissioner, come on, what are you doing? What's going on here? Where's the money? What are you doing with this money?" And she called it. In fact, Caitlin called this the Commissioner's Cup. She called it the Kathy Cup, named after.
Here we go.
Here we go, Panda. Do you have the fall? Do we have the fall? Uh-oh. Oh,
we can't show the ball. I'm sure we can't show the ball. I'm sure there's some rights thing there. So we get Red Panda, Joey Chestnut, and Caitlin Clark all in the same segment of the show. That's pretty heavy stuff.
The Panda insists she'll be back before the start of the NBA season, so that's great.
That's good news. Good news.
And I hope she swears never to appear at a women's basketball game. She needs to stay at the NBA level. She's gonna be the point guard for the Knicks.
Yeah, probably so.
Rich, Curry, I appreciate the time. It's been wonderful again to get together. We want to thank Justin Jarrett for doing his great job at the controls and for finding us that Red Panda video. We'll be back next week. It's all-star break for baseball, but I'm sure we'll have predictions for the second half. And we're getting closer to football season beginning.
Yeah,
we didn't even talk any college football this week. Obviously, we'll have something to do with that as well, as we throw a whole bunch of folks under the bus.
See you guys.
Under the Bus is a production of the Loco Media Network and is filmed on the Hilton Head Island campus.